So hopefully, brilliant. We're now recording. So we are now recording. If you desperately don't want your name or letters to appear, you must leave now. Right. So it has been an interesting Christmas and New Year. If you remember last year, on the 22nd of December, bless them, CQC turned around and cancelled the framework. That was last year's. That was December 2022. And after being told it was going to come in on the 1st of January 23, it magically didn't. We were told later in the year. Now, this year we've come through, we've had bits of dribs and drabs of information, some doubts over whether it will actually happen, so on and so forth. We finally got the official dates through, kind of September-y time, and it landed in the south on the 5th of December. And what we discovered just about a week or so ago is that the first official report under the new framework has been published. Now, what I'm going to do, this is going to be in kind of 3 parts. I'm going to quickly do a little bit of PowerPoint just to kind of contextualize. Then we'll jump onto the report and have a look at it. And then I'm going to show you an Excel sheet that I've created for you all that will hopefully help in terms of those initial first scores. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen, always a possibly dangerous situation. So welcome to our webinar today. Hopefully you can all hear me. Any issues, do ping a message or use the kind of emoticons. Today, the aim is to look through the new CQC report. And whilst there is an S in that, it is, I'm afraid, only a singular report. And it's a huge thank you to Kerry Wright, well worth connecting with on LinkedIn, and also Tina Welford, again, also worth connecting with on LinkedIn, who found this report. Also, I've been working and have been very closely connected to a wonderful organisation called Be Outstanding, b-outstanding.co.uk. Find them on LinkedIn, Be Outstanding. They're a great tool, particularly for home care services around compliance. And they did a really great piece of work for me yesterday evening. They developed an amazing algorithm that kind of basically finds reports, and they were able to check using that algorithm that there was only one report still so far that had been posted under this new framework, and that is still the case. So we're about to look at the one and only currently published CQC report. We're hoping that in conjunction with Be Outstanding, we're going to be letting you know using their tools when other ones start to come through. So lots of exciting stuff. Do stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Care Research, Louis Worth, and do definitely connect with Be Outstanding as well. Now, this is the CQC link. Don't worry, I'm going to put it in the email. I'm going to put it in the chat later on as well. This is the report. Now, poor Abigail Court Domiciliary Care, they've probably been inundated as they've kind of been the first ones. What you'll see is that first look, everything looks very, very normal, very, very similar until this little bit here. Read the latest assessment report for Abigail Court Domiciliary Care, HTML, whereas usually it says PDF and opens up a PDF. So what we've got now is the CQC are, instead of turning their reports into PDFs that you can download and save, they're now building it into the CQC website itself, so that those of you that visit the CQC website said, I've got a father who's 76, love him to bits, he's going to be 77 in a few months' time, highly likely he will need care. And if you're using kind of iPhones or iWatches or kinds of things, then messing about with PDFs can be a pain. So actually embedding this as an HTML into the website makes a lot more sense, makes it a lot more useful for me as a quote unquote potential customer to look at the reports and to read through the reporting information. But anyway, that's enough from me about the HTML. Let's have a look at what it looks like. So we click it here. Here we go. God, imagine if that didn't work, wouldn't that have been a pain? Here we go. So as you can see, we've got overall, and then we've got the key questions: safe, effective, caring, responsive, well led. If we look at the overall page, there's 2 little paragraphs. So one of them is barely a paragraph. There's the first paragraph, which is their view of the service. Abigail Court provides care and support for people living in their own in specialist extra care. Service provides support to older people. It's very much the standard kind of opening information that we would see on the PDF. It explains the assessment activity went on from the 6th of December, ended on the 11th of December. Here's where it gets important. We looked at 5 quality statements. So bear in mind, there are 34 quality statements in total. But in this assessment, they only looked at 5. Get your pens out, everybody, because CQC said they were going to have some priorities. They never told us what those priorities actually were, but this is giving us a pretty strong inkling as to which quality statements they are first looking at, or certainly initially looking at. And they are safeguarding, involving people to manage risks, safe and effective staffing, independence, choice and control, and equity in experiences and outcomes, which these kind of sit across, I believe, three of the key questions. So definitely, if you're not sure where to start in terms of getting prepped, start on the evidence you have on these quality statements: safeguarding, involving people to manage risks, safe and effective staffing, independence, choice and control, and equity in experience and outcomes. There's a little kind of summary kind of sentence or two here about people's experiences. People told us they felt safe, knew staff well, felt confident to raise any concerns. People told us they were involved in planning their care and were asked for feedback regularly. So you've got a very quick overview of the service and what quality statements were looked at, and a very quick sentence or two sentences here to explain kind of people's experience. I think over time, as people give more people's experience evidence to CQC, that section here will likely increase. Now, let's get into the meat of it all. We've got the key questions here: safe, effective, caring, responsive, and well-led. So if we click on safe, here we go, you'll see two things. First of all, we've got their definition of safe. Then we've got this bit here. This service scored 75 out of 100 for this area. So they're given an overall score out of 100 for safe. And if you want to find out more about that, you can look at the information on the links here. I've also done some work on our YouTube channel around how the scoring works. Long story short, they add up the scores for each of your quality statements, and they create a percentage out of that score versus the maximum score that you could have got. We'll go back to that in a moment. But for now, let's have a look at what they've actually discovered and what they've actually said. So, involving people to manage risks. This was one of those 5 quality statements. We can see they've given them a score, and that score is 3. So they've got a score of 3 out of 4 for involving people to manage risks. 4 is outstanding, 3 is good, 2 is requires improvement, 1 is inadequate. So they've got a 3, they've got a good for involving people to manage risks. And there's a few descriptive sentences here. Care plans contain assessments to identify risks and keep people safe, for example, moving and handling assessments. People told us they are involved in making decisions about their care and support. Staff were aware of and knew where to find information about people's risks. Staff told us they were given enough time to read care records and were kept up to date on any changes. Very kind of succinct sentences, and I wouldn't be surprised if these were almost stock sentences that we'll start to see kind of more relevantly across different reports. Much more succinct, straight to the point, and they've been given a specific score. Safe and effective staffing, they've also received a score of 3. And again, we've got these kind of referential points here. The provider completed appropriate police and criminal record checks, right to work checks were in place, references were obtained and verified, staff received training to carry out their roles, the training matrix confirmed this. Very to the point, simple sentence or two about some of the key areas. But here, staff told us they were well supported by the management team, felt confident to raise concerns, told us there were enough staff to meet people's needs. We spoke with providers, the provider who told us they had changed the appraisals to check-ins. So you can see they are very succinctly, in a sentence or two, giving the main key points. If I'm making a decision about my care for my 76-year-old dad, I can see scores straight away. I can see very simple sentences that I can get through. Now, I think, and Mark Tops, who's a great kind of advocate in this space as well, made some really good points about the need for a move to more visual things. And I know that CQC want to do more visual stuff. That is obviously not here yet. At the moment, it's text-based. We've got the word score 3. We've got the services score 75 out of 100. These will likely become images and widgets over time. But for now, we've just got the text. Again, safeguarding, got some information here. Score, again, they've scored a 3 for safeguarding. And again, some simple sentences. Staff understood their responsibility to keep people safe. One staff member said, I would raise any concerns and speak up if I had a problem. Leaders notified local authorities and CQC of any safeguarding concerns. People told us they felt safe and confident to raise any concerns, etc., etc. We can see that for the other areas, they have also scored a 3. And we've talked about this before on these webinars. CQC made a statement, I believe, end of November, that they would be using your previous CQC scores in safe, effective, care, and responsive, well-led to populate the scores that you get in the quality statements they haven't yet looked at. And I'll be going into a bit more detail about how that works shortly. But as you can see, these other areas that they haven't looked at, they've stated here, we did not look at this quality statement during the assessment. The score for this quality statement is based on the previous rating for this key question. You can see they've got scores of 3 because evidently they scored a good for safe in their previous report, I assume. We'll show you what that looks like shortly when we go back to the PowerPoint. Effective, Again, I'm not going to go through it all, but again, we can see they've got a good overall. They also scored 75 out of 100 because, very simply, everything was a 3. You can see that they didn't actually look at any area of effective during this assessment. But how they got the 3, how they got the score? Well, they've used the previous rating that the home had in these areas. And again, I'll show you again, remind you how that works shortly. Caring. So within caring, again, they've got 75 out of 100. They've got good. They've got 3s for everything. We can see independence, choice, control. So that one was assessed. We can see these kind of choice sentences that kind of describe what they saw. You know, staff spoke positively about people, gave examples of person-centered care. One staff member told us people are given choice over what they want. We always ask people what they want. They can always change their minds. Again, you can see that ongoing focus on feedback from staff, on feedback from residents and families. People's choices and preferences were included in their care plans. So again, CQC are using these kind of standardized, you could argue maybe not, but perhaps in time may become stock sentences that very simply, very basically get to the key point. And the score is given for each of those quality statements, including the ones that they didn't assess where they've used the quality statement from a previous inspection. Just going to quickly check in with everyone. Everything making sense so far? Can people hear me? Is everything making sense? Feel free to type. Hopefully this is making sense. Yeah, thumbs up. Good, good. Just wanted to make sure people could hear me. Again, we can go back over these again in a moment. Obviously, I'm recording this, so I will share this video. We then have responsive, which again, equity and experiences and outcomes has come through as one of the areas they've looked at out of those 5 quality statements they chose to look at. Again, we've got a score of 3. We've got some kind of standardized, kind of quite broad sentences. Provider completed monthly care reviews with people to gather feedback where needed. This resulted in changes to people's care and support. Staff told us they supported people to feedback on their care. Staff told us this was done informally during care visits and formally through care reviews. People told us they were involved in their care and support plan. They told us they had a key member of staff they could go to. Again, they're just given the key facts on what has contributed to that score of 3. Bear in mind, 3 is good, 4 is outstanding, and 2 is RI, 1 is inadequate. And they've scored a 3. They've scored a good for that quality statement. Those previous quality statements, again, have been populated via the previous score of their key question. I'll show you again what that looks like. And again, finally, for well-led, none of the well-led areas were looked at in this inspection. The scores have been generated again from the previous score. It looks like it was likely that this service had good in every area prior to this. So again, service scored 75 out of 100. It scored a 3 in every area, and they've taken the scores from the previous reports. So very quick 10-second summary before I jump into how they've used the old scores to develop the current quality statement scores. You've got the overview of the service as normal, but it's an HTML page. Once you go onto that HTML page, there's a very brief description of the service and what's occurred. There's also an even briefer description of kind of people's experiences of the service. This will likely grow as CQC collects more people's experience evidence, and that becomes a more central part of the way services are assessed. And then as we go into safe, effective care, being responsive and well-led, we have the overall score for the service, for the key question, which is an aggregate of those quality statement scores. If you're not sure what on earth I'm talking about, have a look at some of our previous videos and Wednesday webinars, or ping me an email. Happy to explain it to you. Essentially, they're using the scores from the evidence categories to create the quality statement scores. The quality statement scores then become the final score for that key question. Then those key question scores give you the final overall rating for your service. Those quality statement scores are laid bare here. Where relevant, there's a couple of explanatory sentences that explain where that score has come from and where the score has been populated by the previous report. They've got that statement here. We did not look at this quality statement. The score for this quality statement is based on the previous ratings for the key question. And again, we have each of those: safe, effective, caring, responsive, and well-led. And just final, I'm just going to make it super duper clear. The 5 quality statements, I'm going to say them really slowly. Safeguarding, involving people to manage risks, safe and effective staffing, independence, choice and control, and equity in experiences and outcomes. Those are the 5 quality statements that in this case CQC have looked at. And for me, that's the clearest example we have at this point of what CQC are looking at, because it's the only hard, clear evidence example where CQC have said These are the quality statements we look at. Doesn't mean they're the only ones they're going to look at over this year. Doesn't mean they're the only ones that they're using as their priorities, but it does tell us what they've gone for first, which I think is important information for those of us who are preparing for this process. Safeguarding, involving people to manage risks, safe and effective staffing, independence, choice of control, and equity in experiences and outcomes. Right, the next thing I want to very quickly go into is that issue of first scores. So as we said, where CQC have come and assessed, they assess and they give a number. All evidence categories required by a quality statement will be collected. So there was initially an idea that actually CQC would look at all of the evidence categories and quality statements. So whilst you only see the quality statement score, they've likely collected all of the evidence categories. So people's experience, feedback from staff and leaders, processes, observations where relevant, and feedback from partners. They've collected all of that evidence to assess that quality statement. And then what we see as kind of the externals are those specific quality statement scores. I am giving you what the public sees. You, as someone that runs a service, will likely see more information either via email or eventually through the portal. This is what the public sees. And CQC are very clear that what the public sees and what services see may be different under this new framework. I have made contact with Abigail Court to find out some more. They haven't got back to us. I'm sure they've been inundated with contacts and obviously, just keeping busy. If anyone does know them, do let me know. Be great to speak with them. So once they've done those quality statement scores, they are scoring everything. 4 is an outstanding, 3 is a good, 2 is an RI, and 1 is an inadequate. So you're getting those quality statement scores. Those quality statement scores are coming from the evidence scores, and those evidence scores are coming, through the evidence that you send through. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, do get in contact. We do a whole training session on the scoring process. We also have some videos on our CQC Get CQC Ready YouTube channel. So there's a few tweaks. Some of the previous areas where a quality statement, where a new quality statement is, were in a different key question. So what they've done is they've taken your previous scores. Let's say you got a good in safe, and they're turning all of the quality statements in safe that they don't inspect as a 3, as a good. Similarly, if you've got a 2 in, for example, effective, then all of the quality statements that are now in effective currently get a good. I'll be showing you visually what that looks like in a moment. There are some tweaks. So workforce wellbeing enablement is a quality statement that used to be in well-led. So it uses your well-led score. Similarly, care provision, integration and continuity used to be in well-led. Now I believe it's in, effective or responsive. So it uses your well-led score. Providing information used to be in effective. It's now, I believe, in responsive, so it uses your effective quality statement score. There's also a quality statement called environmental sustainability. You do not get a score for that because they haven't looked at it before. Let me show you what that looks like in visual. If you're looking at all these words going, what on earth is he going on about? Don't panic, it'll all be clear in about 15 seconds. Here is an example of a service. They've got a good for safe. This is in their past inspection. They've got an RI for effective. They've got a good for caring. They've got a good for responsive. And they've got an outstanding for well-led. This is what their initial scores look like. So can you see? For safe, they got a good. So all of the safe quality statements are a 3 because they got a good in their previous inspection. Effective was an RI, so they've got a 2. So all of the effective quality statements are a 2. Now here's where it gets a bit tricky. Caring, the first 3 take the caring score of good. However, workforce wellbeing and enablement used to be in well-led. It's now in caring. So because it used to be in well-led, they're taking your old well-led score, which is an outstanding. Hooray. So you've got a little Brucey bonus. They've turned it into a 4. For responsive, you can see the majority of them are a 3 because you've got a good in responsive in your last inspection. However, care provision, integration and continuity used to be in well-led. They're taking your old well-led score, which is a 4, and outstanding. They're also taking providing information, which used to be in effective. It's now in responsive. They're taking your old effective score and turning that into a 2. For well-led, all of the well-leds are a 4 because you previously got an outstanding in that area, and you don't have a score for environmental sustainability because it isn't looked at. So that's how CQC are populating your reports with your old scores. Obviously, the way that it's working, they're not kind of magically making them all turn up today. When they inspect you, they might pick those, for example, 5 quality statements. They'll assess the evidence in those quality statements, and they'll give you new scores for those quality statements that they assess. For the ones they don't assess, the ones they don't look at, so in that previous example that I showed you, Abigail Court, the first one that's been published, they only looked at 5 quality statements. The remaining 29 quality statements have been populated in this way. It's taken their old key question score and any quality statement related to that key question, minus some of those tweaks that have moved key questions, they've taken their old key question score. So for example, in SAFE, the ones they didn't look at in the SAFE quality statements, they've taken their old SAFE score, which was a good, and populated the rest of them as a 3. So what they're doing is they're inspecting the quality statements, as they choose. And in this example that I showed, they looked at 5. The other ones that they're not looking at are going to be auto-populated through the previous score of your service. Now, do not panic. If you're wondering how on earth do I get my head around this, guess what? I'm sending you all for free because I'm a lovely person. It's a CQC Excel sheet. It's an Excel sheet that I made when I was very bored on a Saturday. I'll probably spruce it up a little bit more before I send it later on. But fundamentally, you've got original, so that's your original score. Then you've got safe, effective, caring, responsive, well-led. Let's say that at the moment you have a good for safe, you have an outstanding for effective, you have a good for responsive, for caring, sorry. Let's say responsive didn't quite go as you planned, you've got an RI. And then for well-led, you have, let's give you a good. What it does, if we now click on safe, there's all the quality statements. It's populated them with the score. It's given you your final score as well. Same for effective, caring, responsive, and well-led. Now notice with responsive, and some of the numbers are different. So it's taken, because they've moved some of these, it's taken your effective score and it's taken your well-led score in these areas. Something that you'll notice here is it's giving you your key question percentage and your key question, so your rating for that key question. If there are quality statements rated 2 or a 1, that will sometimes mean your score is limited. Again, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, look at our previous CQC videos, get in contact with me. Our CQC Ready training goes through all of this. If we give you an example, let's make this one a good, but let's make some of the other ones not so good. So in this example, if we click on responsive, can we see how, oh, no, that hasn't quite worked as I wanted to, because I need to put some up. That's outstanding. There we go. Let's make you outstanding. Then we can see it more clearly. Okay, so there we go. So can you see, overall, you've got 79%, which is amazing. It means you've got an initial rating of 3, which is good, which is fantastic. However, because some of those ratings are a 1, that 3 is downgraded to a 2. The long and short of it is, if you've got a key question that is an outstanding overall, but you have a score of a 1 or a 2, your outstanding grade gets downgraded to a good. Similarly, if you have a final key question rating that's a good, but one of those key question scores is a 1, then that good gets downgraded to a RI, a 2. If you're not sure what on earth I'm talking about, look at our previous webinars, get in contact with me, I can explain it more. So just as a quick recap, we have the first report. I'll be sending the links that you can click around yourself. It's called Abigail Court Domiciliary Care. It's in Luton. If you look it on the CQC website, you'll find it. It's done as an embedded HTML page rather than a PDF. You've got a description of the service and a highlight of the quality statements they've looked at. You've got a little description of people's experiences as well. You can then click through each of the key questions. You can see the overall score for the key question, and you can see the individual scores for the quality statements. Where the quality statements haven't been assessed, they're using the quality statement from your previous key question rating. If you're not sure what on earth that looks like or means, don't worry. I will be pinging you an Excel sheet that you can use to explore that. If you then want to use an Excel sheet to actually kind of do your evidence scoring, look up someone called Julie Garrity, who is fantastic. She's made a brilliant CQC scoring tool that she's made available. There's a cost to it, of course, but I'll be sending through her details as well, so do get in contact with her. Right, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to stop the recording. That way, if people wish to speak or ask any questions, you can. 2 things that I want to also let you know: if some of this has gone right over your head and you're going, oh my goodness, I do not know what's going on here, get in contact. Our CQC Ready training means that you and your entire team can get your your kind of knowledge on this framework sorted in a day. We can do it online. We can do it in person as well. Online is certainly preferred at the moment because we're having some back issues. Plus, it saves you a lot of money. You can get everyone all in at once. So do get in touch about our Get CQC Ready training if some of your staff need that, or some of your team. Equally, we are doing a lot of work on feedback evidences. So if stuff around surveys for residents, families, staff, partners sound like a massive headache, get in contact. We can take that entire headache away from you and save you a lot of time and money. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording. I'm then going to switch off the rule that means people are muted. So if people wish to ask a question, they can. This is the end of the official part of the recording. I'm also going to be uploading it on to YouTube, hopefully later today, if I get a moment. So let's stop.